Wizzy Wizards, and welcome back to the pursuit of happiness with me, Pigtail Girl, your friend and galactic wizard. Here I am in space, as you can see. And today's episode is going to be about something that I'm pulling up here. Excuse me. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mayan calendar, because we haven't really heard much about that, have we, since 2012 came and went. But I follow a guy called Carl Johan Calleman. I may have even read out some of his stuff before on this channel, I'm not sure. But he was always saying that people have misunderstood the Mayan calendar, and that the end, not the end date, but the end date of one of its cycles was actually, oh, what was the date? He's going to say it in here. It was October 2011, October 28th, 2011. He said was the true shift point of the Mayan calendar, and I believe he's correct. And on that at that time, a new cycle began. That is called, excuse me, because I'm looking it all up on here. These are new terms. I hope I'm saying this right. A trekena, or trekena, spelled Trecena, which is a period of time that spans around 13 years, I believe. And it is called a trekena. So yeah, about 13 years ago, that would have been 2011. It's slightly under though, because each trekena is 300 is made up of 13 360-day cycles, I believe. Yeah, so without further ado, what is old Carl saying today? Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you by calling you old. I mean old as in my old friend. He's saying that August the 21st, 2024, a major milestone in the Mayan calendar, the activation of a new positive trekena of the 8th wave. And he says all the waves of time. I will link this article in the descriptions down below, so you can go and look at it. So he puts images in there of the pyramid of time, and how each pyramid is a time of evolution that we go through as cycles. And he's saying that I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm just going to go. He's got his beginning. We know what the Mayan calendar is, I presume, and how people thought it meant the end of the world in 2012. Not that I thought it was going to be the end of the world, but I have to admit, believe that we were going to be ascending into the 5th dimension at that point still. And that was the point I instantly stopped believing in that idea, actually. And I stopped believing in ascension. I know many people, even probably watching this, you probably still do believe in it, and all power to you. I believe we're coming to the end of galactic cycles, that's for sure. And in a way, it is an ascension, because we are trying to move up in a progressive way. So in that regard, it is an ascension, as in moving up the spiral of frequency instead of down into lower frequencies. So he's saying that, so the Mayan calendar is still going on. Right? There's still loads of stuff about 2012, blah, blah, blah. Yes, he was the guy who said, you were all wrong. That's why he needs to talk about it at the beginning and remind people that he was the guy who said you were all wrong. And so let me get to the bit about what's coming. So he's saying, instead of the intense desire for change that we had, you know, in the last end of the cycle, things, however, did start to slow down after the actual shift date of October 28th, 2011. And what he's saying is, back then as well, there was lots of protests. Yeah, sorry. The new energy that emerged after this date, in fact, was quite opposite of that of all the protests, Occupy movement in 2011, the Arab Spring. At least politically, after this shift, the future has become more and more bleak over time, and many countries have seen a rise to power of dictators and strongmen, quite in contrast to the year 2011. The popular movements in Egypt and Syria, to name two important cases, very evidently were turned on their heads. Beginning in 2012, the feeling of forward movement disappeared, and after a number of years, the pandemic hit, and climate change became a palpable reality. The political system in the United States came under direct threat. Industrial-scale warfare reappeared in the Ukraine and Israel, and the hopes that were ignited in 2011 for a better world, a happy new beginning, have largely been thwarted. I am not saying that some people with a positive vision for humanity could just have turned these events around. But at least if they had known the right date for the shift of the ages, October 28, 2011, as brought to you by Carl, it would have been easier to understand why things did not seem to be going in a positive direction. So I guess we went into a negative or nighttime trakina at that point. And I seem to remember him mentioning this, that eventually we would go into the daytime trakina. And that's what he's going to talk about here, which is supposed to be happening in 2 days from the making of this video. So I have to quickly get up on here and talk about it so we can all see if anything happens. Because I too, and many, we've been feeling that this critical shift into something more positive is coming. But as you know, whenever the energy is trying to move upward in a positive momentum, there's always that, there's always duality of another energy trying to go in the opposite direction and squish it down. So sadly, when you're in the sort of night times in the Mayan calendar, it's the darker side is more prominent. When you're in the daytime, the lighter side is more prominent. So that's the difference. So the only ancient inscription that describes this critical time, the Tortuguero monument number 6, describes it as if Bolon Yukta Kur, or Ku, sorry for my pronunciation, the 9-step or 9-support deity, would appear in his full regalia. So that is, let me just, sorry, I need to just absorb what he said there. But also the concept of the shift of the ages is somewhat misleading. The only ancient inscription on that idea at this critical time was on the Tortuguera monument number 6, describing it as if, oh yeah, he'd made a mistake in his grammar, it as if Bolon Yukta Ku, K-U-H, the 9-step or 9-support deity would appear in his full regalia. So that's what was said, right, on the tablet. That's what they said. He would appear in his full regalia. It is obvious that this inscription can be interpreted in different ways, but to me, it does not necessarily imply a shift of ages. Rather, the full regalia would mean that all 9 waves on the pyramid that he talks about, shaping consciousness in the universe, would have appeared and become accessible to us. So he's saying, like, as you go through the ages, different parts of your brain open up and enables you greater access to levels of consciousness, right? So this is very interesting for me as a BodyTalk practitioner, is we are working on waves of consciousness. That's what we're always working with. And there are different levels to your consciousness and your mind body, and it is a trickle down system. But just because something's there to access, it's also on some level up to us to access it, right? If we all choose to not access it, we can also go down again and repeat, you know, steps in the system. So that being said, let's see, this theory of it just being consciousness waves that we can plug into, this would be consistent with the events in 2011, but by itself does not explain the downturn beginning in 2012. To understand this, I believe that we have to reassess our views of the Mayan calendar more broadly and be willing to accept that the Mayan calendars alternate between the time periods of creative construction, peaks or days, and periods of rest or destruction, valleys or nights in between. The Mayan calendar system describes exactly the times and at what levels of the cosmic pyramid when such shifts would take place. Hence, in order for something new to be created, the old must be destroyed to create the space for the coming. In ancient times, these alternating energies were simply accepted as real or as part of a cycle of life and death and rebirth, even if the Maya were unique in timing these cycles. So he's saying this new 13, where does he explain about how long it takes? Let me just figure this out, guys. So I haven't got my glasses on. Okay, so what this is telling us, in order to reach the 9th wave, which is this ultimate, so if you're thinking of it as an ascension, you're ascending into another layer of consciousness. It's not so much another dimension, it's just a new level of consciousness that you're able to access that you couldn't access before. To reach the 9th wave, you first need to have climbed to the 8th wave. Thus, we need to study this wave in order to understand how it relates to the current shift somewhat more in detail. The 8th wave is a dualistic wave that brings the potential for people to download a state of consciousness that expanded the energy of the Eastern Hemisphere right brain half. This wave was activated on January the 5th, 1999. And after 12.8 years, a trachina of 13 ton each of 360 days, it, as well as the other waves, went into the valley following the October 28, 2011 point. All the waves after this date simply continued oscillating. Yeah, waves oscillate up and down, up and down. Hence the name of the plumed serpent. Between peaks, days, and valleys, nights, ton by ton into the future. In the Mayan calendar system, the trachina count of 13 is of primary importance. This is why the plumed serpent was seen as the supreme deity. To follow as it is through trachinas, that cosmic time is structured. All right, sometimes he's English. He's not actually English, this guy. So it's like the weave of the serpent is following the trachinas of cosmic time, showing how it's structured. That's what he's trying to say there. As October 28, 2011 was a date when trachinas on several levels ended, October 29th, 2011 was also a time when a new trachina began. Yet to complicate things, the trachinas starting October 28, 2011 would begin with a dark valley and then also end with such a dark valley. Such a trachina we can call a dark or negative trachina. At least in the Mayan view, a time period that begins with a dark energy will also, to some extent in its entirety, be dark. It is then not very surprising that the trachina that is now ending has not been one that has had a strong forward movement. What is important to know in this context is, however, that August 21st, 2024, a new trachina begins and it starts with a peak or day. This makes it likely for this to have a stronger direction towards the positive future. However, we can call the trachina now beginning a positive or light trachina, and even before it has been activated, a shift that has become evident. So his collaborator, Sean Caulfield, should get the credit for first having seen the importance of the August 21st, 2024 date. Oh, that's nice. He's giving a shout out and giving props to someone who he gained information from. I respect that. Understanding this date also has wide-ranging ramifications as to how we may look at the future, where we are meant to go, and I will only touch about this briefly here. Yet arguably, the August 21st, 2024 date is the most important milestone in the Mayan calendar since October 28, 2011, and the shift has also generated a new positive clarity as to the long-term future of the Mayan calendar and its consequences for humanity beyond any form of millennialism. This is not a calendar that has lost its relevance since 2011, and it may now be more important than ever. Okay, so overall you can say that the trachina, October 28, 2011 to August 21st, 2024, that we are now leaving has been a time period when many have lost hope about the future for humanity. So very, very interesting, going into a new time wave, a new daytime within consciousness, within time. And I just really thought, oh, I hope this is true. I think we need it. And I do actually feel that on that 2012, at that time that he's talking about, things did just seem to all go down. You know, people were expecting it to go up and we were all happy, and it just seemed to plummet relentlessly in a tailspin. And I do feel like this information has something to do with it. So great news. Let's keep our minds on the goal, which is to end all the chaos, get rid of all the minions, and keep on moving, keep moving our consciousness up, evolving, growing, expanding, becoming better, becoming the best versions of us that we can possibly be here now to be. And yeah, let's try not to get downtrodden with the energies of that night. It's really like a dark night of the soul in time. You know, like when you're on your spiritual path, you have the ups, don't you? You have that time where you're all expanding, you're like, whoa, this is great. And then you have those times when it shifts and you go into that downward bit where you have to go into the dark night of the soul, and there's things in your consciousness that are out of balance, or your consciousness wants you to grow out of or get rid of or reassess or go over, release, you know, looking at traumas, looking at where you're still blocked, all of these things. So those dark periods are definitely necessary, like you said, to like break down and destroy the old, to then bring in that new energy. So very exciting, particularly because there's many things that are hanging in the balance this year in the USA, as an example, with everything that's going on over there. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. So yes, tomorrow, not tomorrow, the next day from the time I made this video, keep your eyes open. Feel if you feel any shifts. It's like keep your third eye open. See if you feel any shifts. Let me know in the comments if you do. And it'll probably take a while. You know, sometimes it takes a while to really see the shift revealing itself in real life, you know, in the real world, where you can say, oh yeah, well, that's a turn for the better, you know. That was unexpected. That's a nice bit of news. That's good news. Wouldn't it be nice to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, that's a nice bit of news. What good news. Fingers crossed for humanity, as always. I will love you and leave you, my darlings. I will see you on the next episode of The Pursuit of Happiness. One love.